helicopters dropping sun visors, courtesy of Black Oak, Arkansas.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Ambassador of Southern Rock program. I'm your host, Michael Buffalo Smith, welcoming you to the program. Thank you so much for tuning in and checking it out. We've got a very special program today. I'd like to ask you, if you would, to please do me a huge favor and hit the subscribe button that is below the video and subscribe to the channel. That way, you'll be among the first to know anytime we post new content on the channel. Also, I'd like to ask that if you're not aware of our magazine, Kudzu, please check it out. It's free. All of our stuff is free. Kudzu magazine is available at kudzumag.com, KUDZOOMAG, kudzumag.com. Lots of music, writing, and fun stuff. So hope you'll check it out. I really do. Well, today I'm welcoming in a wonderful guy, I first interviewed him way back in the Grits days, the early days of Grits magazine, back in probably 1998 or 99. And we have not had the opportunity to catch up in a while. And it's really a pleasure to talk to him today. The guest, his name is Harvey Jett, lead guitar player, piano player, banjo player, and background vocalist, all that for Black Oak, Arkansas. Yeah. And I'm talking about during from the very beginning, through all the way up through most of their big albums of the 70s. So in the beginning, they were called the Nobody Else, and they had an album come out on the Stax label in 1969 before becoming Black Oak, Arkansas. And all the albums that Harvey played on are all classics. One of the great classic albums of all time, the Black Oak, Arkansas debut album with the song Uncle Elijah, which was written by Harvey. Yeah, he's got a great story to tell you about that too during the interview. Followed up by Keep the Faith. Followed up by If an Angel Came to See You, Would You Make Her Feel at Home? These are all so good. Such great albums. Followed by one that changed my life forever back in high school, the live album Raunch and Roll Live, which went on to be a gold record and was followed by another gold record, which everybody owned, High on the Hog, which spawned the big, huge, massive monster hit, Jim Dandy to the Rescue. Yeah, baby, that's what I'm talking about. Good stuff. Oh, it's so good. And Harvey also played on the album after that called Street Party before walking away from it all. And he tells us why he decided to walk away from the life of a rock star with all the money, all the power, all of that. He just needed to walk away, and he tells why. It's an interesting story. I hope you guys will stick around and watch it. Harvey Jett is our guest today on the Ambassador of Southern Rock, and we're so happy to have him. Please let us know what you think. There's comments below, comment section. Let us know what you think about it. Also, feel free to email us at any time at kudzumag, KUDZOOMAG, kudzumag at yahoo.com with your thoughts, opinions, opposing viewpoints, suggestions. I read all of the emails that I get, every single one, and take it all into consideration. Believe me, I do. I take none of it for granted. We thank you all for sticking with us for all these years. Without further ado, let's go into our interview now with the remarkable Harvey Jett. All right. All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Ambassador of Southern Rock. And so happy to have as my guest today a legendary guitar player for one of the great bands. Some people call them Southern Rock, some don't, whatever. You know, titles are titles are titles. But one of the most entertaining bands I remember from my teenage years, I had a great time seeing a group called Black Oak, Arkansas. And this is one of the guitar players. In fact, in my opinion, he's the guitar player. Harvey Jett, welcome to the program, Harvey.
Hey, man, good to see you. Good to see you. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So, Harvey, you actually was with Black Oak from the very beginning and all the way up through Street Party, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So you played on all the best albums. That's what it is.
Well, I enjoyed them. You know, I enjoyed them.
That was my favorites.
I was on the first 7. I think we had 3 gold out of that 7.
Huh.
But I've got three gold on my wall, so I guess we got 3.
Oh yeah. I imagine High on the Hog was one of those.
Yes. Yes, it was.
Yeah. Well, I want to go back right before Black Oak when you guys were you were part of the Nobody Else, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the name of the band when I got in the band in 1967. Actually, I was 17 years old.
Yeah, and I saw that that band was on the Stax label. Were you playing more R&B, or was it the same kind of music as Black Oak, or what?
Well, it was the original music. Actually, it was but it really wasn't fitting in I would say the Memphis sound. You know, we weren't really at all like Sam and Dave and Otis Redding, and you know, we were more of a folk rock at that time. And they were doing cover tunes. When I got in the band, they were doing cover tunes by the Byrds and Dylan. And their specialty was like, because Ricky Lee played the 12-string electric. And man, they were doing bird tunes with the harmonies and the music that it was, when I got in the band, man, I remember playing My Back Pages, and they were doing it so good that I was playing along, I think, on guitar. Because when I started, I played keyboard and guitar. And but man, it was so good. I remember getting emotional, man. It was so good that it was, I mean, it was loud, but I'm like, man, this sounds better than the record, you know.
Wow.
But they were doing some cover tunes by Dylan, the Beatles. I mean, like we did Strawberry Fields and stuff like that, because I did the intro on the keyboard. But like when we went to New Orleans and stuff, we were, you know, called Nobody Else. We had never heard of Black Oak. Well, I mean, it's not that we hadn't heard of it. It's just that we had no idea. It was more of a place we were trying to get away from, you know, small town, nothing but a fire station or a gas station, the post office, and that's it. But Jim Dandy was the only one that lived in Black Oak, but we all lived, you know, within the radius, you know, 100 miles or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 67 when I got with the band. And they were living in Jonesboro, Arkansas. And actually, I started as a rhythm player and playing keyboard, off and on rhythm guitar and keyboard, because J.R. Brewer was playing guitar, and he played a Rickenbacker, and he played really well, had his own style. It wasn't really rock and roll. It was more like folk rock, but he was really good. And Keith McCann was on drums, and that was called Nobody Else. Of course, you had Pat Doherty on bass, and then Jim and Ricky Lee on 12 string, and then had Jim Daniel on tambourine and the vocals. He wasn't playing scrubboard, I don't think, at the time. He was doing tambourine. Scrubboard came along, I think, in LA. But yeah, I was with them for about a year before we were playing places around Arkansas and packing the place out. Back then they'd have Legion Hut, armories and Legion Hut and auditoriums where you have concerts. We're packing the place out. But we had to get out of town because we knew that we couldn't do anything else in Arkansas. It's about as big as we could get. So we said, well, we can't go to LA or New York. That's too far. But we can make it to New Orleans. That's kind of a world spot. Might get discovered. And our first gig was on Bourbon Street.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I played there for a year at the Gunga Den. From 9 at night till 5 in the morning. 30 minutes on,
my.
30 minutes off. Yeah. But that was quite a trip. We were drug free, no drugs, only alcohol. That was it. But we had long hair. We looked like a bunch of hippies, acid rock. We sounded good, But because we were all straight, and the Gunga Den happened to be the hangout for all the hippies, after they get off work, that's when they'd come and relax, and they could go out back and get high and stuff. And then they found out that we were all straight. So then the word got around, how word gets around real quick. Word got around that we were probably narcs.
Oh,
and we went through that. Then they realized we were too country to be narcs. It was just, we had just never got turned on. And then it became everybody's goal to be the one to turn us on.
Oh boy. Wow.
And somebody finally did.
Oh yeah. When did Nobody Else, when and how did you go from Nobody Else to being called Black Oak, Arkansas?
Well, that came about after we had moved to out of New Orleans. We got as big as we could get there in New Orleans. I would say we became the #1 rock band there in New Orleans, according to the crowds we were drawing, because we were playing outside of the Bourbon Street. We had other clubs that we were playing at, and we were doing well. So we went to LA. We hooked up with some attorneys and management from the Iron Butterfly. They, I believe they're the ones that came up with it, because they saw us as some country boys, like the Beverly Hillbillies in rock and roll. And, we had a story to tell. In other words, when you call us, there's a nobody else on every corner out in LA. You'll see anything, you'll see everything, you'll see stuff you've never seen before. So the word nobody else really, it didn't mean that much. In Arkansas, it was kind of cool, but in LA, it wasn't cool. So these guys come up with, says, you guys need to call yourself Black Oak, Arkansas, because that's where you're from. And when people look at you and say that name, it tells a story. And they were right.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
very true.
So that's how we got the name.
Well, that's cool. That's very cool to know.
And it's true. I know it's true because I was there.
Because you were there. Yeah, man. We were talking earlier about the first album, the Black Oak, Arkansas album. Me and several of my friends just love that album. And you said you wrote several of the songs, right?
Yeah, I either wrote or co-wrote 5 out of 8 on that song. Uncle Elijah, as a matter of fact, was my grandfather. Raymond Webb was I was raised by my grandparents, but his uncle was Uncle Elijah. And when I was 5 years old, we lived in West Memphis. It's like 10 miles from Memphis, across the river. And we went to Memphis to visit Uncle Elijah, and he was living with his daughter and her husband. And he was sitting in a rocking chair in front of a fireplace, smoking a big cigar. And he was 105 years old. I remember I was 5. And he was so cool. And he had a grandson there that was a little bit kind of slow, the way he talked,
Yeah.
And he was talking to my aunts, which were like kind of like my sisters. They were a few years older than me, but he was looking at them. The grandson would say, "Y'all like Chuck Berry?" He was trying to say Chuck Berry, and I'd never heard of Chuck Berry.
Oh boy.
And so anyway, my aunts were looking at each other like, "What's he saying?" And he's like, "Y'all like Chuck Berry? Y'all like Chuck Berry?" He couldn't help it. He couldn't talk, you know. So anyway, Uncle Elijah said, "He's saying Chuck Berry, damn it." and they looked at each other and said, "No, we never heard of Chuck Berry." And he said, play it for him, boy." And he had a little record player there with Chuck Berry on it. And he put that record on and it blew my mind. And I never heard such guitar playing in all my life. And I got introduced to rock and roll, I guess, by Uncle Elijah.
That's pretty cool. I love hearing these stories after all these years of listening to it and never knowing any of this. It's very cool. The like I said, the first 6 albums or whatever were really life changers for me. One thing I wanted to ask you was, it seems like there was a there was always sort of almost a spiritual thing on, like, having an album called Keep the Faith, having an album about If an Angel Came to See You, all this kind of stuff. Was there ever, was that just marketing, or was that were some of the band members spiritual type people at that time?
It was more or less marketing, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I never will forget seeing that LP, the Keep the Faith album, and I thought, for a minute, I thought that it was going to be like a Christian rock thing.
Well, that was that we were working with somebody in LA that was working with album covers and pictures and art and promotion and all kind of stuff like that, after we kind of got hooked in with the Iron Butterfly and did that 50 city tour with them. But he was the idea behind the album there, Keep the Faith, on the bookshelf showing the Bible and all the other books. And we looked at it and approved it, but it wasn't really something we sat down and came up with.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. As I say this to a lot of people all the time, but one of the great things that I miss so much about the 70s rock and all is the big albums, the big vinyl's having kind of a comeback now, but that was the great thing about album covers like that, where you had gatefolds and you had all the liner notes and pictures and, free things. I mean, for goodness sakes, to talk about the live album, Raunch and Roll, which was a life changer for me. I mean, I've still got my deed now. I still own that inches land in Heaven, Arkansas, if it really exists. I'm sure that it really does.
Man, I have wondered sometimes what happened to that acre. What we did is a promotion thing, and we meant well. It's like we wanted to give back to the people. And it's like, man, we got heaven on earth here, because the lodge up there, we needed a place to relax. And so it had a swimming pool and everything. It was a fishing lodge that went through a divorce, and they sold it cheap, and then they let it run down, and we come in and it was totally remodeled, I think, before we ever moved in. But the pool was fixed, and it was just a nice place, And yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've read about you that that you are a Christian. I was raised by a Baptist minister, and I went through a little upheaval over Black Oak. There was a minister that they watched on TV who one night decided to tell everybody that the Raunch and Roll album and that Black Oak, Arkansas were Satanists. Have you ever even heard of such? They said it was Satanist, and that you play that album, that live album, backwards, and it's it says I love Jim Dandy says I love Satan and all. Have you ever even
No,
heard of that?
no, that's not exactly it, but I know what you're talking about. Let me ask you first: is this interview going to be just vocal, or is it going to be with visual?
Oh, it's visual. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, so they'll be able to, if I make an ugly face, they'll be able to see it.
Yeah, yeah. You hadn't yet though.
This is the first time I've done this, so I'm just checking to make sure.
Yeah, looking good. Looking really good.
All
Your
right,
hair looks especially, Greg.
well, thanks. Hey, listen, let me clear this up because I know here's the thing of that. I mean, you can be the judge. I'm just telling you what happened.
Yeah.
And this is the truth. All right. After I left the band, I was traveling, doing gospel music and doing prisons, schools, churches, just outdoor concerts, just, traveling evangelist, you might say. And so anyway, I had my phone number listed, like, because people call me, and I lived in Batesville, Arkansas. And this guy called me one night, Sunday night evening, and he said, "Is this Harvey Jett?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you play with Black Oak?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Man, I can't believe you answered the phone." I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "Well, most people just try to hide." I said, "Well, no." I said, I'm trying to, I said, "I like to meet people." I said, "That's what I do for a living, is travel, do concerts and all around everywhere." He said, "Man, that's great." And we talked for a while, and he said, "Man, I just came from a church service." And he said they were talking and playing some backward masking. And he said he saved your guys' album for the last because it was the most powerful. And I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Well, the song, When Electricity Came to Arkansas." He said, "You know the song?" I said, "Well, yeah, I wrote it." He said, "Well, it's an instrumental." He said, "But in the middle, where y'all do the jibber jabber," he said, Jim Dandy comes out louder than y'all, I guess because he was the lead vocalist." He said, "But everybody comes out jibber jabber." And he said, "But if you play Jim Dandy's forwards, it's saying yate, 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 Natash, Natash."
Yeah, that's
Natash.
it. That's it. Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's saying. He had a white Samoan husky named Natash. If you say that backwards, it's Satan.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And this guy
Okay.
was playing that on the TV, and it convinced my
So anyway,
parents.
yeah. Let me finish. Let me say what happened. He
Yeah,
says
yeah.
it was on the song, on that part. He said where he says, where you, in the break in the song, where y'all would go, "Oh," right down at the bottom, y'all start doing this jibber jabber. And then it said, then you go, "Oh," real high, and everybody's screaming, and music comes in. I said, "Yeah, it was a little sound effect thing we were using." I said, "But that's what he always said." He said, "Well, have you ever heard it backwards?" I said, "Well, no, I don't go around playing Earl." I said, I don't even have any of our records, especially if I wouldn't be playing them backwards." He said, "Well, I just came from a church service, and do you know what it says backwards?" I said, "No." He says, "Well, you know what it says forward because you just told me." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, backwards it says Satan, Satan, Satan. He is God, he is God, he is God." And he said, to top it off, it sounds, he does a goat, it goes bah, like a goat, which is
Well,
symbolic. The goats are symbolic in Satanism.
yeah, yeah,
So
for sure.
anyway, it freaked me out. I said, "What are you talking about, man?" He said, "Just go play it." I said, "Well, I don't have the album." He said, "Well, go borrow it." He said, "Play it, figure out how to play it backwards." He said, "It's there." He said, "How did y'all do that?" I said, "Well, we didn't." He said, "What do you mean you didn't?" He said, "It's there." I said, "Well, I'm just saying we didn't do it." He said, "Well, who did?" And I said, "Well, who's it glorifying?" He said, "Well, I never thought about that." I said, "Well, think about it." I said, "Saying Satan is God." He said, "You're saying that Satan is saying it?" And I said, "Well, I'm saying a demon is telling him to say it or something, because we didn't put it in there. It's what I'm telling you. We didn't in the studio do a backward masking like the Beatles did. We did not do it. What happened was live." And so anyway, next day I borrowed the album, which a friend of mine had them all, and I went and borrowed it, put it on a reel for real, played it backwards. And it's not as clear as just saying it clear. It's more like, because it's backward, it has this shush sound. But here's the way it sounds. Here's the way it sounds exactly. Certain. He's got.
Hey man, it sounded just like the tape.
That's exactly the way it sounds. Now,
yeah, I mean they did that. That's exactly
think?
how it sounded. Yeah.
What do you get from? Is that accidental?
Well, I mean, what I got from it was I went into defense mode. I was 16 years old or 17. And I went into defense mode, and I told my parents, I said, "Do you know what?" I said, "I think I would say that if you took any album and you play it backwards, you can find something that sounds like something like that. It doesn't matter who it is." And if
well, after that, I started listening. I got some doing some research, and I found a lot of electric light orchestra had some. Van Halen had some. Oh man, Led Zeppelin's got the. To me, Led Zeppelin's got the most. Do you know anything about Stairway to Heaven?
Yeah. And I've read all about that and heard some of it.
You know what it says backwards though. In a certain verse.
I can't remember. That preacher talked about it, but I can't remember.
Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, sure.
Because I've told it so many times. It's in the verse. There are two roads you can go by, but in the long run, there's still time to change the one you're on. Well, think about what that's saying forward. There's two roads to go by, but in the long run, there's still time. That's opposite of what the Word of God says. The Word of God says today is the day of salvation because tomorrow you may not be alive. So there is not time. There's two roads, yeah, and may not be time. There might be, and there may not. So anyway, two roads you can go by, but in the long run, there's still time to change the one you're on. Yeah, backwards it says, Satan, my sweet Satan, he is the one who makes him sad, whose power is Satan. And it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear. So here's the thing, man. Satan has the ability, obviously. We didn't know it was in there, but he put that in there for some reason. It's been told to me through studies that the human brain can unscramble backward like you're looking in a mirror. When you look in a mirror, you see a person with the left arm that is your right arm. You see what I'm saying? The brain can unscramble. The brain can, without us knowing it, the brain can unscramble backward messages. Well, Satan knows that because he's been around a long time. So anyway, there is a lot of backward messages in a lot of secular music. That's why I don't listen to it. I don't listen to it at all. There's some great musicians that I honor and respect and think the world of, but I don't buy albums. I don't support it. I don't listen to it because I never know when Satan's going to try to slip something in. But you know, I mean, that's the honest truth. That's what I know about it. You know, it's just, I hate to say it, but you know, Satan is involved today in music more than ever. There's actually artists that have sold out and have actually quoted it on interviews that they have sold their soul.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if they think it's funny or cool or what, but I really regret that someone would go that far to be famous. Yeah. You know, I mean, I had it all and I walked away from it. You know, I had it and I walked away from it, and I'm glad I did.
Oh, well, there you go, man. There you go. Wow. Well, I'm glad to get that. You know, I've always wondered about that, but that's cool. Just a couple more things about the heyday of when you were with Black Oak, Arkansas. One of the things that I watched on television was great excitement was the California Jam 74.
Right.
I just wonder if you do you have any memories of that, because it looked like it was a pretty big deal
Oh yeah, it was
Quite a
awesome,
few
man.
people.
Yeah, it was in April of '74, and the Eagles, Ozzy Osbourne with Black Sabbath, uh, Earth, Wind and Fire, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, uh, Seals and Croft, Black Oak, Arkansas, and Deep Purple. Yeah, and Deep Purple. But it was a great time. Of course, there was no roads. You know, they always have a bigger crowd than they expect, and so we had to fly in by helicopter. But it was really hot that day. It was in April, but it was California. We were trying to think of something to help this crowd. I mean, it's 200,000 or 300,000 people as far as you could see. We knew they were hot. We knew they were out of everything, but here it was, you know, they'd been there all day. And so anyway, somebody got the idea, one of us got the idea, hey, let's get some sun visors. And somehow we got them made up instantly, pretty quick. And we got them up in a plane. We went up in a plane and dumped them out like they land like little whirly birds. They come flying down, you know. We could look at people that look like ants running for food or something, because they didn't know what it was until they got it. And then we were watching the people, and then we'd dump another box. You know, we had thousands that we dumped. It's like a little headband with a sun visor,
Right?
but it said Black Oak, Arkansas across the front. But it was just something to say thank you, you know, to the people and try to help them out a little bit, you know. Wish we could have dumped water, but that wouldn't have done any good.
Yeah, no doubt.
But it was a great day, man. It was a good time. It was awesome time.
I was just rewatching some of your set from that concert recently. I got it on a DVD, and I don't know. To me, that was just my favorite. I guess between 1971 and 76, to me, were the years, my most formative years as far as music, and what would make me end up being a journalist writing about music was whatever came out during that time period. But I wanted to ask you a couple more things. When the Black Oak, I mean, you guys were very popular, but then all of a sudden you had a massive hit with Jim Dandy to the Rescue, right? So I was just wondering, did that change the dynamic, or did that change people in the band when it went like, because that had to be a whole lot bigger financially and everything when that thing went all the way up the charts. Did it change things for you?
Well, the best I can remember, it just made us more busy, you know. I mean, we were playing 300 nights. 300 nights a year, but we toured 3 years, you know. And, I mean, the big break for us was doing a 50-city tour in '71 after we'd moved to LA, and we hooked up with the Iron Butterfly people, their lawyers and everything, managers, and we did a 50-city tour, and we were the opening band for a group that their music, they were good, and they had a hit or two, and Agata DeVito's the only one I know of that was the biggest hit. But their music was kind of on the way out, and it was kind of like a farewell tour, and it really wasn't fair to them to have a young, wild band from Arkansas playing country Southern rock, you know, running all over the stage. One reporter, rock magazine reporter, said we looked like a bunch of buffaloes that had been fed amphetamine because none of us stood still. It's
That's
like
the truth. That's the truth.
You could turn the music off and still be entertained because we were running all over the place. That's just the way it was. We were having fun, you know.
It was one of those. That's the thing about Black Oak, Arkansas. It was one of the most, one of the first very entertaining bands. Because you mean there's people out there, you know, not to take away from any of them, but like the Eagles and things like that, that they just stand there and play. But with Black Oak, it's like from the time the band hit the stage, it was just like running and jumping and smashing guitars and just a great show. And I've said this before, and I'll say it publicly yet again. I don't think, I think without Jim Dandy Mangrum and Black Oak, Arkansas, I don't think David Lee Roth would have had his act with Van Halen, because I think he,
Yeah.
was just totally heavily influenced.
Yeah, you can tell there was some influence there. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's
But
like
you know, some people you mentioned earlier about some people said we were Southern rock, and some said we weren't. Me and Ed King and Leonard Skinner were really close before he passed.
Great friend
And
of
Ed
mine.
King, I didn't know it because he didn't say it to me, but he said it to another friend that told me. And Ed King made the statement that Black Oak, Arkansas was the first Southern rock band.
Yeah.
Because like I was saying, in 71, it's when we hit it, because we were discovered, and you might say in 71, because we did that 50 city tour, which really wasn't fair, as I was saying, for the Iron Butterfly, because, it's some different styles of music. And they actually, after they came out, after we'd left, I think we did 30-minute warm-up thing, but we rocked, and so, I mean, we got word. I don't think I remember hearing it, but we got word. I think our road managers or something said, man, there's people booing these guys, and we felt bad about it. And they called Atlantic, and I think wanted to get us off the tour. And Atlantic said, no way. Said this, they're going to be the next big act that we got. So we're not, this is great for them, but sorry. That's just the way it is. You know how record companies are. It's all about the money.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's the truth.
So after that first tour, man, it was like Black Oak, Arkansas headlining. We had Leonard Skinner open for us. We had Kiss open for us. Bruce Springsteen was one of the first groups to have comedians, because we wanted to be the first music. Instead of having a band open, we wanted to have comedians, get everybody laughing and in a good mood. We had Cheech and Chong, Steve Martin, those some great guys, and it's good, good to meet those guys. But yeah, it was from then on out, it was Black Oak, Arkansas headlining. I mean, we everybody that you can think of in the 70s, I think, opened for us. I mean, I think except when Black Sabbath would come over, I think we would still open for them. It got kind of a tie there, though. Now, we did that tour. The last tour I did with them was there after Cal Jam in April. The month of May in 74 was my last tour with Black Oak, and it was in Europe, opening for Black Sabbath.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that was my last 30-day notice. I had already, before we left, I said, that's my last, because I had already had enough, man. I was burnt.
That's an interesting pairing with Black Oak, Arkansas and Black Sabbath.
Yeah, it was quite a show.
Little different kinds of music there, but I like both. So, I mean, were you in the band when Ruby Starr was singing some with him?
Yes, yeah. We discovered Ruby. She had a band up in Indiana, up north, somewhere around Indiana. I think she opened for us, and she really really impressed us. And I think we talked to her afterwards and said, look, we want to work with you, but we don't really need your band. We got other ideas. And she
yeah.
Kind of a bad deal for the band. I mean, they were very upset at us. Come here and take our star singer. Yeah.
Well,
that's what we named her Ruby Starr. I mean,
I know she added a lot to the show, as far as I was concerned. That last time I saw the band, she was up there dancing around and singing, and she only
did one song with us. We were trying to promote her and her band. She had a band called Gray Ghost.
Yeah, I got that album too. Two of those.
That was right about the time I left. But we were trying to help her, and she was actually just doing that one vocal on Jim Dandy.
Yeah.
But as far as touring with us, she never did all the songs that we, she never did the whole set with us, but just that one song. So she was always a guest artist. She wasn't really part of the band. Well, there was only 6 of us was the band,
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
well, coming into the home stretch, I wanted to ask you, you kind of touched on it, but tell me again, if you would, how and when you decided to walk away from Black Oak.
Well, man, I tell you what, Michael, this is pretty powerful that happened. I mean, you got to admit, something had to happen for me to leave 20, 30 grand a night, touring the world, flying in jets, riding in limousines, and staying in nice hotels, and walk into a music store and say, I want that guitar, and it'd be on stage that night tuned, ready to go, new strings. It was just the life of a rock star, and something would have to happen for me. And I don't know why it was me. I don't know. I don't have all the answers. All I know is what happened to me. I'm the only one that left, and I'm going to tell you right now why. And it was in December, and the reason I know it was in December because the movie The Exorcist had just come out, and I looked it up online, and it came out sometime in December of '73. So we were on the road, of course, as always, and we had some time off, and everybody was saying, man, let's go see this movie. People were talking about it, blah, blah. And everybody's excited. And for some reason, something told me, don't go, just stay there. And normally I would like to, because I grew up watching The Wolfman and Dracula and all those scary movies. So yeah, I enjoyed stuff like that. So anyway, something told me to stay. So anyway, there I am, which was rare, by myself. You know, hardly ever was we alone. We had bodyguards and, you know, stuff like that. And all the band was always doing something together. But I was alone this time. I was on about the 9th floor. So I'm by myself and enjoying a long time. And I walk out on the balcony and look over, and I was really going through a lot of depression. I was seeking answers. I was, you know, we had some friends that were close, some that toured with us, like a light show guy, a young guy in Memphis that laid down and strangled on his own vomit at a party. He was only 22 years old. Scott Parsons, you know, was his name. And you know, he was worked with us on the road. It's like when somebody you work with shoulder to shoulder, and then all of a sudden they're dead and gone, you know. And a lot of rock artists, you know, Hendrix was gone, you know, and, you know, all these people were dying. And so I started really saying, what if I die? What's next? Where do I go? Is heaven and hell real? So I was out there on that balcony, and I looked down and said, and something said, lean over a little bit too far, and there's answer at the bottom. You know, there's peace at the bottom. And it scared me because I knew it wasn't me. I never had those thoughts, you know. I wasn't suicidal or nothing, I didn't think. But I went back inside and sat on the bed, and I was like, all right, I've had enough. I remember, I think I said it out loud. I was talking to God, you know. And I said, all right, this is it. I've had enough. And I just said to God, I said, if you'll show me that you're real somehow, some way, if you'll show me that you're real, then I'll do whatever you say do. If it's leave the band or stay in the band, I don't know. But I got to know that you're real and what I'm here for and what am I supposed to be doing in this life. And at that very moment, I felt oil being poured over my head. Oh. And it started at the top of my head, and it slowly ran down over my head, and real slow. And it was weird because everywhere it covered was peace. It's like I could feel it. Time it was halfway. I could feel it up here was peace, but still I could tell it hadn't gone all the way through. But it came out my toes. It started from the crown of my head to the sole of my feet. It went all the way through. And I'm sitting there, and I didn't know how to say, well, praise God or hallelujah. I didn't know those words, you know, at the time. So I'll never forget what I said. I know I had to make God laugh if he's got a sense of, which he does, got a sense of humor. Yeah. But I'll never forget what I said. I was sitting there, he just poured oil. I mean, like I said, all right, show me you're real. And he just poured oil over my head, sitting there in a hotel bed on the side of a bed. And you know what I said? I was sitting there and I said, that's not bad. I mean, the God of all creation that just poured oil over you, and you sit there and you say, "No, that's not bad."
yeah, that's a good one. I like that. Yeah.
And I'm just telling you, man. And from then on, I started reading the Bible, and I started I started, just going a different direction. And I started losing the desire to be a rock star. I wanted to go tell somebody about, and I wanted to go help somebody and tell somebody what I had experienced. And I felt like I had a calling, you might say, or a mission. And since then, since that time, for the last 30 years, I've done concerts in 13 prisons in 13 states, where I'd go and do a free concert and have hundreds give their life to the Lord. I've done street concerts, I've done churches, I've done auditorium. I've used that guitar because when I got saved and delivered, my guitar got saved and delivered too. So it's still my buddy.
Wow.
So I've got a new album called, well, it's not new, but I've made it available, called Eagle's Flight. It's on CD, but I you can tell the web, it's harveyjettsmusic.com, but PayPal is kind of messed up right now, and I can't really send anybody a CD right now, but we're going to get it straightened out. And somehow it got hacked. There's some charges in there. I don't know where they're from, but we'll just get a new one. But anyway, yeah, that's what happened. And 6 months later, and that's kind of like I asked God, I said, do you want me to leave this band? And it's like he said, not now. I'm thinking, well, okay. And it's kind of like I could hear God talking to me, not audibly, but and so it's like, what do you want me to stay 6 months for? I mean, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't have a heart for it. And he says, well, I want you to talk to each one of your band members in private. And he said, I'll arrange it. I said, okay, let's see how this works out. So here I am trying to figure out how God's going to do something, anyway. So every night, a different one. Everybody'd fall asleep on the bus traveling down the road. Everybody'd fall asleep except a different one. I mean, wouldn't be night after night consecutive, but might be a week or two later. But it was weird how it happened. It'd always be a different one in the band. It would just be me and them traveling down the road with the bus driver up front. We're back there. And I had quit getting high at this point, and they were still getting high a little bit, smoking weed and stuff. It's about all. And they had got introduced to the hard stuff yet. That was after I left. But I had time with each one of them, and I had that private time to talk about life and death, and they gave me their idea about what they thought. And I told them what I had felt and what I didn't tell them what had happened, because I knew they wouldn't believe me and they'd think I was crazy. But I just told them what I had found, and that I was kind of hearing distant drums, and without saying right away that I was going to be leaving, because I knew I was going to be leaving, but I didn't want to say it at the time. But after I had that private time with each one, then God told me, he said, now it's time. And so I went to the manager and I said, that's time for me to leave. And he said, well, what do you mean? I said, I just can't do this anymore. He said, why don't we pull up to a church? We'll have the bus pull up to a church every Sunday. And when we're on the road, he said, all the band can wait in the bus, and you go into the church, and then we'll come back out and we'll go on down the road. I said, well, that's mighty nice of you, but it don't work that way. Because they didn't want me to leave. And I can appreciate that, because I was writing a lot of the songs, and, we were brothers and we went through a lot together. But I had to quit doing what I was doing. I just felt a calling on my life. So I said, well, I'll do 30 days because we're getting ready to go. And the management asked me to at least do Europe, because we finally got Europe, and we're going to open for Sabbath. And if you'll just do 30 more days, then, I'll let you go. He said, otherwise I can, contracts, I can really mess you up. And so I didn't want to deal with all that. And I said, all right, you got me for 30 more days. So I did that tour in Europe with Sabbath. And America was there, the band America, Horse with No Name. And Steely Dan was there doing some in and out dates, but we did every show with Black Sabbath. But anyway, that was my last 30 days.
Wow. Wow. Well, it's very interesting. Well, I had the other question was going to ask, you kind of answered it when you were talking about your your solo album. It sounds great. As I said, I have not heard it yet, but I will be. And when I do, I don't think it's ever too late to write about something. So, it's been out a while, but we're still going to write a review. And when I do, I'll put a link, since you're having trouble with PayPal, we'll put the link in the magazine and everything so folks can easily find and order that thing. And they need to go over to your website anyway and check you out.
Okay, great.
Yeah, it'd be great, won't it? It'd be, well, what the last question is, do you have any plans? I didn't even ask you how you fared through this crazy year we've had with COVID. I'm assuming that you did okay.
Yeah, I'm doing fine. I just turned 72 in February 17th, and yeah, for my age, I still do quite a bit and stay active, and I teach a lot of guitar in person. Actually, I'm going to start doing some Zoom because I've got some out of town people that want to start learning, and having fun with that. But I've got enough new material to do a new CD, and so I'm making plans to do that, and a book. I'm working on a book. I've already got it outlined, and I've got some people helping me work on that. So that's what I'm working on: a new album and a new book. And that's Harvey. Right now, the website's harveyjettsmusic.com, and they've got some videos on there and some other stuff.
Did you put S on the end of Jett? Harvey Jett's Music?
Yeah, Harvey Jett's Music.
There's a picture popped up there for a second. That was interesting.
Yeah, I just got a call somehow that
you and somebody playing guitar there.
I don't know what that was. It was some kind of interruption. I got a call. It was something there, but yeah.
Well, anyway, we got it wrapped up. I sure appreciate your time, Harvey, and I know a lot of your fans are going to love watching and hearing all this and everything. Hopefully, we'll get to see you one of these days in person.
Well, we're planning on doing some concerts coming up here. Everything's kind of calmed down. We're going to go ahead and make plans because we've been waiting to see, what's going to happen with we don't want to be spreading sickness, so
right.
We're going to try to get back to normal and do some more concerts this year. Hopefully it works out, but
yeah.
Hopefully you and I can keep in touch, and
well, yeah, man, Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah.
I mean, Facebook and what do you call it? Text messaging and all that stuff. Please stay in touch with me. Yeah, I'd love that.
Great.
Well, thanks again, and continued success to you, man. And you just take care of yourself.
All right. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thanks a bunch.